It's time again for Northwestern Outdoors Radio, the show covering fishing, hunting, and all sorts of outdoor recreation and destinations right here in the region you live and play in. Northwestern Outdoors is brought to you every week by Max Lure Company, makers of the world-famous wedding ring spinner, by Loophole, America's Optics Authority, and by Sportsman's Warehouse, America's premier outfitter. Northwestern Outdoors is also sponsored by Wallowa County in Northeast Oregon, where you'll find both nature and fun. By Chad's Coastwide Sports Fishing, offering you the affordable Canadian fishing trip of a lifetime. And by Camp Chef, the way to cook outdoors. So grab your fishing rod or hunting gear, load up the boat or lace up your boots, and let's head outdoors with your host, John Cruz.
I just got back from the annual Northwest Outdoor Writers Association conference. This year, we were at the Diamond Lake Resort. It was my first time there, and I'll tell you what, I love this place. Clean hotel rooms and cabins that front a big mountain lake in southern Oregon, just a few miles away from Crater Lake National Park. The resort has a fire going in the lobby if you just want to hang out and chat with friends. There's a restaurant there that serves up good food. There's a lounge, there's conference facilities, and a very friendly and efficient staff that work hard to make your stay a great one. There were about 50 of us at this conference, a mix of writers, photographers, broadcasters, and videographers from 4 states and British Columbia who not only socialized, but also took part in some great craft improvement seminars to help us do better in bringing the outdoors to you. By the way, if you're interested in joining our organization, even if you haven't been published yet, we would love to have you with us. Just go to our website. It's northwest-outdoor-writers-association.org to find out more. Or if you can't remember that, just contact me through our website at northwesternoutdoors.com. I'll tell you more about it. This week on the show, we'll be sharing the wide variety of outdoor opportunities available in Klamath County when we talk with Jim Chatterton. He's the executive director of Discover Klamath. We'll continue on a similar theme when we talk to well-known Oregon outdoors author and television personality Gary Lewis about some places to fish for trout, bass, and more in southern Oregon. And I can tell you from personal experience, there's some good fishing to be had there. As a matter of fact, us outdoor writers held a little trout fishing derby at Diamond Lake. It was sponsored by Max Lure Company and Henry Hughes, a book author, poet, and professor at Western Oregon University, took first place after catching and releasing a monster trout measuring nearly 22 inches. I had a pretty good derby afternoon myself, catching both a 20 and 21-inch rainbow from shore. The lure I used? A Max Lure Promise Keeper spinner. We'll be telling you more about that specific lure this week when we talk to Lance Mers during an extended Max Minute. Want more? We got it. Randy Webb, the fishing guru and store manager at Diamond Lake Resort, will give you some tips on what to do for a successful fishing outing on this beautiful lake, and he's also going to share news about their kids' fishing derby coming up in June. We've got one more fishing interview for you too, but this one's not taking place at Diamond Lake. Nope. This conversation is with Eric Winther with the Northern Pike Minnow Sport Reward Fishery Program. There is some serious money to be made catching pike minnow out of the Columbia and Snake Rivers, and Eric will tell you what tactics you'll want to use to get your share of these fish and the money that goes with it. Throw in several other upcoming events taking place at a Sportsman's Warehouse store near you, and our trivia question of the week, where you get the chance to win a $25 gift card from Sportsman's Warehouse. And I'd say we've got a great show coming your way, all put together in Diamond Lake, Oregon. But first, we've got another edition of Sportsman Spotlight for you. This week, Josh Mills shares the story of what happened during his latest turkey hunt. Sportsman Spotlight is sponsored by Chad's Coastwide Sports Fishing in Port Hardy, British Columbia. It's the place to go for an affordable, all-inclusive saltwater fishing vacation. Find out more at coastwidesportsfishing.com.
This is Sportsman Spotlight with Matt and Tom. Here we have Josh Mills with his turkey hunt.
I love to turkey hunt, and it's something I've done since I was 13 years old. And, you know, as life happens and kids and job and other obligations and stuff, my turkey season really boiled down to about 4 hours. Got an opportunity to go out, and I was up at, the crack of dawn doing my thing, and went out to a buddy's property. I really didn't have any good indication if the birds were in the area, but it's likely area, so I'd give it a try. So I sat back to a huge pine tree and let the woods wake up and heard some turkeys gobbling off in the distance. And luckily, I had a gigantic boss Tom working out about 400 or 500 yards away. But the challenge was that he had a bunch of hens with him. So knowing that it's pretty hard to pull them away, I kind of played the game soft and let it and called back and forth ever so slightly. And finally, he gets to about 150, 200 yards, and I'm like, okay, something might actually happen. Then a coyote runs in the field and runs him off and brings him back, and then finally they came back. So I, got dejected. I thought it was going to be, and they started to come again, and all of a sudden, from about 30 yards behind me, directly behind me, a big tom sounded off, and he came in absolutely silent. And it was kind of that one that kind of just lights you up inside because it's so stinking close. And I've got no play on this bird until he gets in front of me.
Tune in tomorrow for part 2 of the turkey hunt.
A quality and affordable fishing adventure is waiting for you off Vancouver Island with Chad's Coast-Wide Sports Fishing. Located in Port Hardy, British Columbia, you can drive or fly to your all-inclusive guided fishing vacation. Whether you're after big salmon, heart-fighting halibut, or a cooler full of red snapper and lingcod, you can catch it all here. Better yet, your lodging, meals, and fish processing are all taken care of. Want one more reason to go? The price. With the Canadian dollar exchange rate where it is right now, your U.S. dollar goes further. Space is limited, so go to coastwidesportsfishing.com to book your trip. That's coastwidesportsfishing.com for an incredible BC fishing adventure.
Welcome back to Northwestern Outdoors Radio. We're broadcasting from the Northwest Outdoor Writers Association annual conference taking place in Klamath County, Oregon, specifically at the Diamond Lake Resort. With us here to tell us about the 4 seasons of outdoor recreational opportunities you'll find down here in Klamath County is Jim Chatterton. He is the Executive Director of Discover Klamath Visitor and Conventions Bureau. Jim, welcome to the show.
Happy to be here. Thanks so much.
So, Jim, let's go ahead and talk about some of the destination resorts here in Klamath County where people are going to be coming to fish, to camp, to recreate, and this is one of them right here.
It sure is. Diamond Lake is one of the real premier destinations here in the Northwest, and particularly in southern Oregon. You've got a beautiful lake. We're standing right overlooking it, and you will catch trophy trouts here. You can rent a boat.
Not only are there boat rentals here, they actually have boat tours here. There's a stable during the summer months. You can go ahead and saddle up and get on a horse. There's trails around here. Took a 1.5-mile hike yesterday. Lots of wildlife. There's even loons out in the lake. But this isn't the only resort in Klamath County. Lake of the Woods. Tell our listeners about that.
Lake of the Woods is outstanding. What I really like, it's first of all, it's on Highway 140, about halfway between Klamath Falls and Medford, Oregon. And you will find cottages, campsites, RV parking. They've got a beautiful lake. It's full of trout. What's fun about that is they have a full summer of events, from sporting events to concerts to barbecues to car shows. If you go on their lakeofthewoods.com website, you can see their activities and schedule accordingly.
We can't talk about resorts without mentioning the premier luxury resort in Klamath County. And it's not considered a fishing destination, but there are a lot of outdoor activities at the Running Y Ranch.
Running Y Ranch is celebrating its 20th anniversary this year, and it's really a nice place. If you want to see, the $1 million homes, it's Oregon's only Arnold Palmer's signature golf course, so it's a real destination resort. There is kayaking. There's miles of bike trails, both mountain bike as well as road bike. Restaurants. There's a little village with shops. It's really a nice place.
And horseback riding there as well, if you're into that sort of thing. Now, we've talked about these private, concessionaire resorts that are in this area, but just a few miles from where we're standing right now, Crater Lake National Park, Oregon's only national park, and the National Park Service celebrating its 100-year anniversary this year.
Absolutely. At 100 years, Crater Lake is really experiencing tremendous inbound visitation the last few years. It's a wonderful destination. There's so much more. I remember the first time my family took me up there when I was about 8 or 9 years, and it was sort of like you look over the rim, and I've had the opportunity as a tourism director to go up there and spend more time and discover cover the park fully. There's trails, there's hiking, there's fishing, there's boating. You can't take your boat in, but they have boats down on the lake, so you can walk down the Cleetwood Cove Trail and go out on the boat. There's hiking at Wizard Island, and it's just a fascinating, the geological component of the volcano and just the history of it's fascinating, and it's a lot of fun.
And places to camp, and also a beautiful lodge there, right, too?
The Crater Lake Lodge is managed by the concessionaire Xanterra, and that property was remodeled about, I want to say, 7, 8, 9 years ago. The National Park Service put several $1 million into it. I believe they have 72 rooms there. It's really first class. The food it's a 5-star restaurant, and it's a beautiful place. They make your reservation early because they book up.
Absolutely. You're listening to Northwestern Outdoors Radio. We're talking to Jim Chatterton. He's the Executive Director for Discover Klamath Visitor and Convention Bureau about the great outdoor opportunities. Now, I'm a fisherman, and you've got a lot of good fishing. We've talked about some of these destination lakes where you can go fishing, but you've got some great fishing rivers as well.
We do. For fly fishermen, the Williamson River is really on a lot of guys' bucket lists. The Williamson River is going to see some rainbow trout that are just beautiful up there, but that's not the only place. We've got the Sprague River, there's the Wood River, there's the Klamath River, and the Klamath River is just fantastic for trout fishing and for fly fishermen just outside of Klamath Falls. And you'll really enjoy it. And there's plenty of fly shops and expertise available and local knowledge in terms of what kind of flies to use, what time to go out, what they're hitting on, and so on.
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, one local guide who's also a member of our organization is Craig Schumann, and you can go ahead and look him up, and I'm sure he'd be able to either A, hook you up with a great trip, or B, give you some advice on how to catch fish down here. So we've got this great fishing, especially for trophy trout. As we go ahead and start making our way into fall, I remember as a kid, one of my very first hunting trips as a duck hunter and a goose hunter was to go to Klamath Marsh. But I haven't heard much about Klamath Marsh the last couple of years.
And that's because really we've been in the drought. And so the Klamath Marsh, I wouldn't say it's totally dry, but there's been less water. And that puts a big hurt on the bird population. You got more birds crowding into a smaller area. And as a result, fewer birds have been coming. However, with this winter that we've just had and we're getting over now, the birds are back. There's a lot of water. The rivers and lakes are full. The marshes are full. And it's going to be a fantastic bird hunting season.
Something else I like to do both summer and fall is spend time on the water in a kayak or a canoe. And this county has got a lot to offer people who want to paddle.
We really do. There's lakes, there's rivers. I'll tell you a couple of my secret, well, I guess there won't be secret after this. Honestly, the Wood River is probably the best place for kayaking and canoeing. You'd start at Jackson Kimball State Park, which is near Fort Klamath, and that stretch is just this crystal clear, and you can canoe or kayak all the way down into Fort Klamath, and 2 to 4 hours, depending on your paddling. Beautiful area. But that's not the only place. Upper Klamath Lake in the Rocky Point area, off of West Side Road near Rocky Point, there's a put-in called Malone Springs. And that's my other sort of secret area for the kayak and canoe trails. And it's just fantastic. Beautiful.
Starting to run short on time, but I don't want to short one last topic, and that's bird watching, because you've got this series of national wildlife refuges. You've got all this water in terms of lakes and rivers, and you've got a huge wintering bird population.
We do. Klamath, the Klamath area is known for its birding with over 350 species of birds. The thing that's really put Klamath on the map is not only the variety of birds, but also it's the raptors. Klamath boasts having the largest wintering bald eagle population in the lower 48, with some 700 or 800 bald eagles nesting and roosting in the Klamath Basin. You will see bald eagles if you come down here. They're all over and throughout the whole winter.
Not only that, but you have tons of waterfowl, not just for the hunting variety, but after hunting, it's wonderful to see these clouds of snow geese, tornadoes of ducks as they're coming into fields. And on top of that, in the spring, you've got the western grebes, and they put on quite a show.
They do, indeed. The western and the Clark's grebes, they do this mating ritual where they have long necks like a swan, and they do this sort of dance where they're moving their necks and wrapping around each other as a mating ritual. And it culminates in a tandem exercise. They come out of the water and literally run across the water at speeds of maybe 15, 20 miles an hour, and then simultaneously dive into the water. It's absolutely fascinating to watch, and it's the only place you'll see this happen.
We are out of time, but before we go, let's give folks a website so they can find out more about 4 seasons of outdoor recreation here in Klamath County.
Well, for Discover Klamath's website, it's meetmeinklamath.com.
There you go, folks. Meetmeinklamath.com. Meetmeinklamath.com. I think you'll want to come down here and enjoy everything they have to offer. Jim, thanks for telling us all about this on Northwestern Outdoors.
Thanks for having me here. It's been a pleasure.
Leupold has been building optics in Oregon since 1907, and Leupold binoculars bring excellent optical performance and modern styling to the serious outdoorsman. Whether you're a boater, birder, backpacker, or hunter, Leupold's state-of-the-art binocular lines are sure to fit your needs. Visit Leupold.com or your local Cabela's, Bi-Mart, or Sportsman's Warehouse to see the full line of Leupold optics.
It doesn't matter what sort of adventure you're after. Whether it's big game deep in the backcountry, a day of fishing out on the water, or an overnight in the great outdoors. At Sportsman's Warehouse, we've got the gear in here for what you need out there. Gear up for your next adventure at one of its Sportsman's Warehouse stores or shop online. Sportsman's Warehouse, America's premier outfitter.
You're back with more of the great outdoors on Northwestern Outdoors Radio with John Cruz.
It's time for another Max Minute.
Fish on!
Brought to you every week by Max Lure Company. With us again this week is Lance Mers with Max Lure Company. Lance, we're going to be talking about, well, probably my favorite lure from Max Lure Company, the Promise Keeper Spinner, and it doesn't get a whole lot of press.
No, it doesn't, John, but the cool thing about the Promise Keeper is that you don't need a boat to use this. You can cast it, you control it, but as a bank fisherman, you can really whip this thing out and do a slow retrieve back and just be more efficient of catching fish on a bank as you can from a boat.
This is actually my favorite lure to use when I hike into alpine lakes in the Cascades or the Rockies for exactly what you said. It has that slim profile and it's weighted as well, so you can cast it a lot further than you can a typical spinner. And number 2, that Mylar Smile Blade allows me to go ahead and use that stop and pause retrieve, and as it falls and as it slows, that blade still spins, and folks, that triggers a lot of strikes.
It does. And it comes in 12 different styles, 3 different sizes. It's a beautiful looking lure, and it catches fish just as good too.
Absolutely. So, it comes in single hooks, comes in treble hooks, but either way, you're going to find this is a great lure to use the next time you go fishing for trout in a lake near you. Is there anything else anglers ought to know about the Promise Keeper Spinner?
This lure is all high UV, or even some of them glow in the dark, John.
Fantastic. It's the Promise Keeper. Look for it at your favorite sporting goods store or at maxlure.com. Hey, we're talking to Lance Mers today with Max Lure Company about a brand new lure that's just slaying the trout out there on area lakes. It's the Smile Blade Spin Drift Trout Lure from Max Lure Company. Lance, what makes this lure so special?
Well, we've got our Max Lure patented Smile Blade, our high UV components, and the Spin Drift hook, which gives it a great corkscrew action in the water.
There you go, folks. All 3 components help you catch more fish. The Smile Blade Spin Drift Trout Lure, only from Max Lure Company.
Want to earn a serious reward? You can, and all you need is a fishing rod. There's money to be made catching northern pike minnow. There's too many of them in the Columbia and Snake Rivers, and we'll pay you cash to catch them. Pike minnow eat our salmon and steelhead, and that's no good. The season starts May 1st, runs through September, and the more fish you catch, the more you earn. How much money can you make from this program? Well, last year, one angler earned a cool $100,000. Find out more at pikeminnow.org. That's pikeminnow.org. Go ahead, collect your reward.
A quality and affordable fishing adventure is waiting for you off Vancouver Island with Chad's Coast-Wide Sports Fishing. Located in Port Hardy, British Columbia, you can drive or fly to your all-inclusive guided fishing vacation. Whether you're after big salmon, heart-fighting halibut, or a cooler full of red snapper and lingcod, you can catch it all here. Better yet, your lodging, meals, and fish processing are all taken care of. Want one more reason to go? The price. With the Canadian dollar exchange rate where it is right now, your U.S. dollar goes further. Space is limited, so go to coastwidesportsfishing.com to book your trip. That's coastwidesportsfishing.com for an incredible BC fishing adventure.
This is the time of year to get out and cook out. So make your next meal sizzle with Camp Chef, the brand known for quality outdoor cooking equipment. To eat like a king on your next adventure, go to campchef.com. Camp Chef, the way to cook outdoors.
Welcome back to Northwestern Outdoors Radio. I'm John Cruz. We're broadcasting from the Northwest Outdoor Writers Association Conference at Diamond Lake in Southern Oregon. We're talking fishing today, and with us here, who knows a lot about fishing in Oregon, is Gary Lewis. Gary, welcome back to the show.
It is good to be back on the show and good to see you.
Well, Gary, you're author of multiple books about fishing and hunting in the state of Oregon. You're coming out with a new one, and we'll talk about that in a couple minutes. But first things first, Southern Oregon. I've been fishing here at Diamond Lake, so have you. We've had some good success here early on, and that's been great. We're talking to Randy Webb with the Diamond Lake Resort. More about that during this show. So let's talk about some other lakes that you like to fish in Southern Oregon. Let's start off with another trout lake.
I think you have to look at Agency Lake and Upper Klamath, and so they're connected, of course. They can grow some of the biggest rainbow trout in the state. It's not out of the question to get a 10-pound rainbow there. It hasn't happened for me.
Still, that is amazing. So these lakes, are the fish so big because there's restrictions on how you can go about catching them? Is it a catch and release lake, or is it anything goes?
These lakes grow big fish because the water's shallow, it's rich in nutrients, and there's so much water. And you drive by Klamath Lake and you look out on that water, you will hardly ever see a fisherman out there. It's not because there's not people fishing, it's because the water is so big and the fishermen go to the better places. But there's a lot of water out there, and there's a lot of fish that never get caught.
You know, another lake just down the road from here at Diamond Lake is Crater Lake. Now, it's obviously the centerpiece of Crater Lake National Park. I know you can fish there, but I know it's really restrictive in how you can do it. Why don't you share that with our listeners?
So this is actually a big deal. It's a lake that you can fish. You don't need to have an Oregon fishing license to do it. It's on the federal land there, the national park. The lake was sterile, and it was stocked a long time ago with rainbow trout and with kokanee, and it's cold water. The fish actually live a long time, and they make it there, and there's some pretty good fishing that can be had, but it's a very localized area around the area you hike down the trail to, and then you can take the boat and go out to the island and then fish off the island.
So basically, right where the boat launches, there's limited fishing from the bank there, and obviously you can't bring your own boat to Crater Lake.
Yeah, you don't bring your own boat because you're not going to be able to get it in the water. But if you do go, bring fluorocarbon leaders, tippets. If you're fly fishing, go fluorocarbon. And then remember, the rocks are sharp, so try to keep the fish out of the rocks. And if you're casting and you touch the rocks, you're going to probably want to retie.
So here's another question for you. When it comes to Crater Lake, let's say somebody wanted to get creative and they brought a float tube with them on the boat that takes them out to Wizard Island. Are they allowed to be in that float tube, or do you have to fish from shore at Wizard Island or where the boat launches?
You got to fish from shore, so that would be a big no-no to bring the little belly boat. And, what a great idea, but no.
So there you go, folks. We're keeping you honest on Northwestern Outdoors Radio. Let's transition from trout lakes to warm water lakes in Southern Oregon. Any that come to mind as a good bass lake?
I think about Lost Creek Reservoir, and I think about Applegate, or ones that you can go and take the family and have a good camping experience and have a good chance to go out and catch some warm water fish.
Applegate Reservoir, I believe the local bass clubs will have bass tournaments there, mainly a largemouth bass show, as I recall.
So, yeah, they also have different warm water species there as well.
Okay, so let's talk about rivers, because I know this trips your trigger, and for good reason. There's some really good trout rivers in Southern Oregon.
So I fished on the Keno Reach of the Upper Klamath. Love that section of water. Fished with Darren Rowe there a few times, and then I've walked in there on other times. And it's really technical water if you're going to go in a raft. And so I would say don't do that one on your own.
No, as a matter of fact, I understand there's some Class 4 rapids on that part of the Upper Klamath, isn't there?
There's some rapids that really get your attention. You want to be really prepared, and you wear your life jacket the whole time. You know, I know a lot of us will take the life jacket off sometimes, but you don't do it there.
Let's talk about the actual fishing. I'm guessing fly anglers go there, gear anglers as well. What are they using to get the fish, and how big are those fish in the Upper Klamath?
So that's a summertime closure, and so fishing is good right now in May and June. And the dry fly fishing can be good below the Keno Reach in that section of water downstream. But in the Keno Reach itself, the water is pretty milky, and there are bug eaters in there. And so you'll use the stonefly nymphs with very small nymphs trailing off on droppers, and you'll catch the fish on both flies.
Spinners, spoons, good options?
So spinners have worked pretty well for me in that Keno Reach, and I want to match the crawdads as far as color.
All right, good to know. And again, how big are those fish? What's the average size, and what's the biggest you've ever caught out of there?
How big are those fish? Those fish are big, and so I've seen 6-pound fish. I know that 9 to 10-pound fish have come out of there, and these are fish that would be steelhead if they could reach the ocean, but they're locked between the dams. But they're the same strains of fish that would be steelhead, and they can get pretty big because that's really rich water below those dams. The bug life is just astounding.
So there you go. Lots of great fishing options for trout, including some really big trout, as well as some bass here in Southern Oregon. Again, we're talking to Gary Lewis. He's a prolific author about fishing and hunting here in Oregon. And I want to segue into something here. You've got a new book coming out in about a month and a half.
Yeah, so this is called Fishing Central Oregon, and a lot of people have it already. We're working on the 6th edition. We're adding some new water. But what the Department of Fish and Wildlife did in Oregon this year, when I think it's great, is they decided to simplify regulations. And when they did that, it changed the regulations on most of the waters that are in the current editions and the past editions of the old Fishing Central Oregon book. So it's time to rewrite it anyway.
Well, and it sounds like a great reason to go ahead and get the new edition. In addition, pun intended, to the new regulations, do you have new information about the fisheries themselves and, a description of the lake and what they're going to find and what might work for catching fish?
That's one of the things that changes. We expect things to stay the same. We think, okay, well, Diamond Lake, it has rainbow trout in it. Well, it's not the same rainbow trout that were in it 15 years ago. And in June of this year, they're putting tiger trout in this lake. And so you'll be able to check that off of your list. And then you look at Phillips Reservoir in eastern Oregon, and it has tiger muskie. And so,
Whoa. Tiger muskie in Oregon? This is a first.
It's a new deal, and not everybody knows about it yet. And so by now they should be up to 30 inches, and they were put there to clean up the yellow perch. And I guess they've been doing a good job. And I'd like to go there and catch a tiger muskie this year.
Phillips Reservoir, tiger muskie. What part of eastern Oregon is this, and is this the first year for this fishery?
So these fish were put in a few years ago, but they were put in after our last edition of the Fish in Central Oregon book, so we didn't know this was coming. It's not in there now. But anyway, it's a new thing, and that's a good example of how things change, and you want to stay up to speed on waters maybe you're not fishing all the time.
Well, you got my attention with that one. And so I got to ask again, though, what part of eastern Oregon is Phillips Reservoir?
So I'll answer your question now. It's over toward Baker City, but real close to the town of Sumter.
All right. We are starting to run out of time. So before we go, let's give folks a website so they can find out more about the brand new edition of Fishing Central Oregon.
It's called Gary Lewis Outdoors, and that's my website, GaryLewisOutdoors.com.
There you go, folks, GaryLewisOutdoors.com. Check it out and get ready for the new edition of Fishing Central Oregon. Gary, thanks for the info. Always appreciate it.
We'll see you on the trail.
The road is calling you to experience one of Oregon's 7 wonders, the Wallowas. So grab your camping equipment and fishing gear and head out to Northeast Oregon, where you'll find the views are endless, the air crisp and clean, and the water's cold and clear. Set up camp by the shores of Wallowa Lake or in the heart of the Wallowa-Whitman National Forest. Take your fishing gear and cast your bait into the deep waters of Wallowa Lake, or roll your fly into one of the eddies of the many freestone creeks and rivers teeming with fish. This summer, take the road that leads to wonders. It begins at WallowaCountyChamber.com.
Leupold Gold Ring Optics are built to perform at the highest level, shot after shot, year after year. Our rifle scopes, binoculars, spotting scopes, rangefinders, and more always come through when you need them most. That's why our American-built products have a lifetime guarantee. Or as we like to say here at Leupold, they are guaranteed for a lifetime of performance, not a lifetime of replacement. Find out more about our top-quality gear and our lifetime guarantee at Leupold.com. Leupold, America's optics authority.
This is the time of year to get out and cook out. So make your next meal sizzle with Camp Chef, the brand known for quality outdoor cooking equipment. To eat like a king on your next adventure, go to campchef.com or visit your local sporting goods store and get cooking. Camp Chef, the way to cook outdoors.
Next on Northwestern Outdoors Radio, we're talking to Randy Webb. He's the manager of the store in the marina at Diamond Lake Resort in Southern Oregon. Randy, welcome to the show.
Hi, how are you?
Doing good. So you are the man that is the resource for anglers before they head out on the lake here. Went fishing yesterday, caught a couple of really nice rainbows, 20 and a 21-incher. You've got some big fish in this lake.
Yeah, it's a real good lake for nice fish. They grow real fast here. It's stocked heavy with fish, and we try and put people on them, as well as we can, because we want everybody to catch fish.
Now, are these just your standard rainbow trout, or are they a certain subspecies?
There's actually 4 or 5 different breeds in here. Everybody that grows a fish calls it their own, so we have several different kinds of rainbows in here.
You mentioned the lake is very heavily stocked. We just had ice out not too long ago. The water temperature is cold, but some of these fish are aggressive. The big spring stocking as of May 1st still hasn't happened yet.
No, they actually won't stock fish until the water temperature is just right, and usually that's mid-June, and when they stock them, they're only about 3 inches long. They're little fingerlings.
So what is the average size of the fish that most anglers are catching here in the May-June time frame?
Probably May and June, the average is 12 to 14 inches. And then in the fall, 16 to 19 inches is a real good average.
Let's talk about actually catching some of these fish here out of Diamond Lake. We'll start off with bait, then we'll move to gear, then we'll move to flies. So for the bait angler, is it a power bait show?
99% of them here use power bait. And then a few guys with night crawlers and whatnot also. But probably 99% power bait.
There's a fishing hole right here by the resort that's called the Cheese Hole. What's up with that?
Back in the 70s and 80s, Velveeta cheese, before power bait came out, was the main ticket here. So everybody be over there, be 200-300 boats in there, and they called it the Cheese Hole because everybody's fishing with Velveeta cheese.
That's funny. All right, let's move on to gear. I actually was catching my fish on a Max Promise Keeper spinner, but I'm guessing there's a variety of different, lures you can use out here for success.
Wedding rings are very, very popular. Needlefish, triple teasers, flatfish, hot shots, things like that.
Got to ask about colors because I know that makes a difference. Are there a couple go-to colors? And I guess we should ask about that for the power bait too. Power bait and lures.
Power bait, the chartreuse or the rainbow with garlic in it is probably the bait of choice. The guys trolling frog flatfish are very good in May and June. Needlefish, variety of colors. Everybody has their own little trick that they like, but
I noticed a few fly anglers that were working the lake as well and having some success. Obviously, May, you're probably not looking at a dry fly show, so are we talking nymphs and streamers or what?
Yeah, nymphs, woolly buggers, leeches, things like that tend to work really good. I always prefer a darker color. The olive and black woolly buggers are really good this time of year.
And last but not least, what is the limit on the fish here at Diamond Lake? How many can you take home if you choose to take them home?
It is a 5-fish limit, and out of those 5, only 1 can be over 20 inches.
All right, let's go ahead and give folks a phone number and a website for Diamond Lake Resort so they can come out here and have some fun.
Phone number is 1-800-733-7593, or you can see us on the web at diamondlake.net.
That's diamondlake.net, diamondlake.net. This is a beautiful lake full of rainbow trout, and some of them quite big. Randy, thanks for breaking it down for us on Northwestern Outdoors Radio.
Very good. Thank you. You have a great day.
Next up on Northwestern Outdoors Radio, it's time to talk about catching northern pike minnow. That's right, there's a sport reward program for them. You can make money catching these fish out of the Columbia and Snake Rivers. Quite a bit of money, as a matter of fact. The top angler last year in the sport reward program earned $100,000. But like any other fish, it's not as simple as just tossing a spinner or throwing a night crawler or a bobber and expecting to have success. No, there's an art to this. And with us here to tell us more about catching northern pike minnow, how to go about doing it, is Eric Winther with the Sport Reward Fishery Program and the Washington Department of Fish and Wildlife. Eric, great to have you back on the show.
Thank you, John.
Eric, the last time we talked about this fishery and how to catch pike minnow, we did broach this subject, and we broached the subject of using bait. No, night crawlers wasn't the offering we were talking about. As a matter of fact, you were suggesting that fresh parts from salmon and steelhead work really well, especially the guts, so to speak. You also mentioned chicken gizzards is the most popular bait that's been used to catch these fish over the last 25 years. And you even talked about Mormon crickets, the bait that bites back. But we didn't talk about how to use these baits and where to fish them when you're trying to catch these fish.
Well, it turns out pike minnow are pretty structure-oriented. They're not a particularly strong swimming fish. They can swim and burst, but they like to have a spot where they can rest and see the bait or the food supply coming to them. So you're looking for drop-offs or boulders or current seams where they can wait on that slower side. The food comes to them. They can dart out there, not expend too much energy, go back to their hiding spot. So when we're bait fishing, we want to fish those type of areas, and we want to try to keep the bait just a little bit above bottom, but pretty close to the bottom. Typically, we'll use a dropper or something like that to just keep it, 4 to 6 inches off the bottom as best you can.
Let's talk about artificial lures. Do spinners, do spoons, do curly-tail grubs? I mean, do artificial lures work?
Absolutely. Especially in recent years, the plastics, what they call these tube baits, Gets It is one of the brands that makes them. Those have really come on in the last 5 to 10 years. Very effective lure. There's a whole bunch of different colors and sizes, but basically about 2.5 inch up to a 5 inch. They're rigged with a double hook setup. You can fish them off a dropper, like back bouncing out the back of your boat, or you can drift fish them like you would for just steelhead fishing in general. So we have a crew of guys that fishes off the dowels and a report for that crew. And if you look at that on the Pike Minnow web page, it'll actually show you what colors worked best for that crew. We got a little over 7,500 fish with that crew last year, and so there's all sorts of effective plastics to use out there. As far as lures, pike minnow will take a lot of those, a lot of different baits and lures. The trouble is you're trying to catch a $5 fish with a $6 or $7 lure, and you're fishing down around the structure, and so it doesn't, pretty soon you're worried about how much money you lost instead of the fish you're catching. So really, bait's the way to go, or those plastics, because they're relatively inexpensive.
Great advice, Eric. So there you go. You've got some tips on how to catch some of these northern pike minnow and how to earn some money in the process. Again, it's the Northern Pike Minnow Sport Reward Fishery Program. You can find out more about it at pikeminnow.org. Pikeminnow.org is the website, and you'll find out how the program works in terms of how you make the money, where the check stations are, where you turn in the fish after you catch them. Remember, you have to register first, go fishing, and then turn in the fish. But there's a lot of money to be made. Like I said, one angler last year made $100,000, and now you've got some tips on how you can make some money too. Eric, thanks for sharing this with us on Northwestern Outdoors Radio.
All right, John, good to be here.
Want to earn a serious reward? You can, and all you need is a fishing rod. There's money to be made catching northern pike minnow. There's too many of them in the Columbia and Snake Rivers, and we'll pay you cash to catch them. Pike minnow eat our salmon and steelhead, and that's no good. The season starts May 1st, runs through September, and the more fish you catch, the more you earn. How much money can you make from this program? Well, last year, one angler earned a cool $100,000. Find out more at pikeminnow.org. That's pikeminnow.org. Go ahead, collect your reward.
It doesn't matter what sort of adventure you're after. Whether it's big game deep in the backcountry, a day of fishing out on the water, or an overnight in the great outdoors. At Sportsman's Warehouse, we've got the gear in here for what you need out there. Gear up for your next adventure at one of the Sportsman's Warehouse stores or shop online. Sportsman's Warehouse, America's premier outfitter.
One more time this week for Northwestern Outdoors Radio with John Cruz.
It's time to talk about upcoming events, and we've got Randy Webb from Diamond Lake Resort back with us to tell you about one you're going to love if you've got some kids. It's the 17th annual Diamond Lake Resort Kids Free Fishing Derby. What day is it taking place, Randy?
It's on Saturday, June 4th. And last year we had 172 kids. Everybody won something. It's a great time. We have free hot dogs, ice cream, soda pop. And we have trophies for 3 different age groups. And all in all, a good, fun day.
So is it all about the biggest fish by weight or by length, or how do you go ahead and win if you're one of the kids participating in the Derby?
They are all on length. And then the tiebreaker would be weight.
All right. So the next question, is this a combination of kids fishing, from boats with their parents or offshore or off the docks? Or, does anything go as far as the Derby goes?
On that day, anything goes. You can fish from the shore. We're going to dump in a few extra fish. We're hoping to get some from the state. From a boat, anything. You don't have to get up early. We weigh in the fish about 2:30 in the afternoon, and then we give out tons of door prize stuff. So
sounds like a great time. Again, it's the 17th annual Diamond Lake Resort Kids Free Fishing Derby taking place Saturday, June 4th. So come on out with your kids, have some fun, catch some of the trout that are in here. Randy, any pre-registration necessary? Can they just show up?
Show up here in the boathouse and we'll get you signed up, get your raffle ticket for you, and get you out there fishing.
Find out more about this at their website, diamondlake.net. That's diamondlake.net. Thanks, Randy.
Thank you very much.
Let's run through some more upcoming events taking place at Sportsman's Warehouse stores near you. The first one's taking place today for you Saturday listeners. You'll want to go to the Hillsboro Sportsman's Warehouse store from 2 to 3 p.m. because Andrew in the camping department is going to teach you the basics on what to bring during a day hike, and he'll give you some tips on where to go hiking as well. In addition to day hiking, he's also going to be covering backpacking. That's right. He'll give you some tips on packing a bag. He'll help you out, fitting you for a backpack, and let you know about keeping track of the weather. It's all free. Again, it's taking place today, 2 to 3 p.m. at the Hillsboro Sportsman's Warehouse store. If you're a Sunday listener in the great state of Montana, head to the Sportsman's Warehouse store in Helena between 1 and 3 p.m. There's going to be a basic fly selection for beginners seminar. So if you've ever wondered about fishing the Missouri River up there by Craig or some of the other streams in this part of central Montana, this would be a great seminar to attend. Sunday, May 22nd at the Lewiston store from 3:30 to 5 p.m. There's a bass fishing seminar. Sean Walburn is going to be sharing some local secrets about where to find some bass and what lures to use for different phases of bass fishing, such as the pre-spawn, spawn, and post-spawn phases. Bring your notepad. There's going to be a lot of good stuff here. Finally, Friday, May 27th, from 12 to 4 p.m. at the Wenatchee Sportsman's Warehouse store, the Northwest Fishing Pros are going to be putting on a seminar. That's right. Ed Iman, who's probably one of the best-known walleye guides out there, hails from the Dalles, will be telling you all about walleye fishing. Chris George with Heavy Beads and Lance Mers, that's right, our very own Lance Mers with Max Lures, will be holding free fishing classes covering tips, tactics, and techniques to help you catch more fish. There's going to be a free raffle with products from Max Lure Company, Iserline, Work Sharp, Dick Knight Lures, Heavy Beads, Smokehouse, Tika Reels, and Columbia River Knife and Tools. Again, these are all free. All taking place at Sportsman's Warehouse stores near you. If you want to find out more about these events, go to sportsmanswarehouse.com and look for the tab that says Event Locator. I'm sure you're going to find some more. And now it's time for your trivia question of the week. There are 3 species of teal, those small, fast-flying, hard-to-hit ducks that you'll find here in the Great Northwest. The green-winged teal is the most likely species you'll see, but on occasion, you'll see a blue-winged teal that's wandered over from the Central Flyway. The other species, though, may be the most beautiful at all, and it's named after a spice. What is this 3rd species of teal duck we are referring to? If you know, go to our Facebook page at Northwestern Outdoors Radio, like the page, find our post with this question, and give us your guess there. You can also contact us through our website at northwesternoutdoors.com. Simply go to the Contact Us page and let us know, what's this 3rd species of teal duck named after a spice that tastes really nice. One person who guesses correctly is going to win the $25 gift card we give away every week from Sportsman's Warehouse. While you're on the web, be sure to tune in to WRVO Radio. You'll find it at RenoViolaOutdoors.com. It's an internet radio station dedicated to outdoors programming 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The website again, RenoViolaOutdoors.com. Check it out and catch our show there too. That's all for this week. I hope you enjoyed this broadcast from the Northwest Outdoor Writers Association Conference at Diamond Lake. Again, if you're interested in joining this organization, even if you haven't been published before, contact me through our website at northwesternoutdoors.com or go to the NOAA website at northwest-outdoor-writers-association.org and make it a point to book a stay at the Diamond Lake Resort. Great base camp, too, if you're going to visit nearby Crater Lake National Park. Until next time, take care, God bless, and make it a point to spend some time outdoors.